Alrighty, we got 2 people and 3 likes already. Awesome. Me like it as well. There we go. Oh, 3 people. Fantastic. Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about uh, the Homo sapien diet. Let me clean my camera. I should have done that before, I suppose. Hey. So we're going to talk about the Homo sapien diet and Homo sapiens in general. So what I wanted you to know is that, you know, the different races around the world have different shared out different genes. So white people or Europeans have a bit of Neanderthal in them, and which is a bit more primitive than Homo sapiens. So blacks from Africa, they are pure Homo sapien. So they have Homo sapien genes, and the whites have Neanderthal and Homo sapien genes. So what was found was around 300,000 years ago, Homo sapiens started coming on the planet, or started being discovered on the planet, and they, their jaws and their teeth got smaller, and they became smaller than Neanderthals as well. And they think it's because it's around that time that fire was discovered, and fire, so they started cooking food, and they didn't have to pull the meat. So that's an interesting thing. But so I started looking into Homo sapiens and how our bodies work. So because although I said we have Neanderthal genes, we're basically Homo sapiens. So when you have a look into the Homo sapien body, it's designed specifically to run a certain way, and it's designed to consume a certain type of fuel, and it is kind of versatile. It's definitely omnivorous. So it doesn't just eat meat, or it doesn't just eat plants. It eats both, because both of those things are seasonal. So if you are in the middle of nowhere trying to survive day to day by catching your food and picking your food, you're going to starve to death if you only eat one or the other. So when the winter comes, there's going to be no plants to eat, or very little plants to eat, unless you stored them, which has been researched and discovered that the people did store food as well, but they couldn't store it for very long, obviously. But in the winter they could, because they could freeze it. But the thing is that the internal organs of the body were set up as an organization specifically to process the food that goes into it, so that they can run around on this planet and survive, basically, for whatever reason that is. They're just basically trying to survive. So these bodies evolved into something that processes certain kinds of food, and that certain kind of food is plants and fat and protein. So in other words, phytonutrients, fat and protein. So the thing is that if you really look at it, how often do you think these people were eating? Like, do you think they were like living a life of luxury, out of their little cave or under their tree? Or do you think that they, had to catch their food and then not eat for a few days and then go out and catch some more food or pick some more food? They had to do that. So they didn't live a sedentary lifestyle. They lived a lifestyle that you had to work for your food. You had to work, and that was what it was all about. You had to work for your food. So this is another thing that I looked into, and what corresponded with what I thought, from my own investigations into this, is why when someone goes into ketosis, or deep ketosis, everybody basically says, I have never felt clarity of thought like this before. I've never been this alert. I feel like I want to exercise. That's something we get all the time in our program. So why is that? Why would someone, when they're not eating, and they go into deep ketosis want to exercise. And why would they become extremely sharp? Because if you're fighting a woolly mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger or some kind of animal that you're trying to kill for food, you would have to do that. You would have to be full of energy, extremely alert, and nimble, and fast, and have lots of endurance, and all of these things. You don't necessarily have to be extremely strong. You do have to have some kind of strength, but you don't have to be like bodybuilder type strong. So that's an interesting thought. So now the person eats, the blood glucose rise when he's eaten. It doesn't matter whether it's meat or veggies, the blood glucose rises, so the blood glucose rises, and they probably ate a lot because they had this animal and they have to eat everything, otherwise it goes off. So they eat a lot and blood glucose goes up, and then insulin goes up and it removes the blood glucose, and the person starts to feel sleepy, and he has a nap and he feels calm, and he wants to cuddle up, and and they lie down and they make a fire and get all romantic, and that's after they've eaten. That's why you feel like that after you've eaten. You don't need to go and hunt, so there's no reason to be alert and full of energy. There's no reason for that. But then as the days go by, the person starts to produce more ketones again, and he decides to get alert and high cognitive function and problem solving, and off he goes. So that was one thing that made me think that maybe this is the way we're supposed to eat, and this is how it's designed. So if you want to feel like alert and have high cognitive ability and full of energy and fit and slim, you should probably be in a ketogenic state. Then I looked at it from the point of view of who's not in a ketogenic state and what do they look like, and how and what do they feel like, and what do they react like. So basically, they are usually heavier than they should be, so they're carrying more fat than they should be. So that means that they're eating too much, or they're eating too frequently, or something, for the way the body's designed. Okay. So and the other thing is that they start to get brain fog. That's another interesting thing. So when they do this too much, they get brain fog, and then they get all sorts of chronic disease, like high blood pressure and diabetes and cholesterol, whatever. But you know what I mean. So then, and if you're not eating the Western diet, which this body's not designed to do, and you're eating the way that the body is designed to do, you feel extremely healthy and you're full of energy and high cognitive function. You don't have any of these chronic disease. So why would someone eat the other way? Okay, so that brings us to the food industry and how they fooled these Homo sapien bodies into thinking. Because remember, these Homo sapien bodies are just bodies. They don't really think for themselves. They're just like do whatever their instinct tells them to. So this is what the food industry has cottoned onto, is that these bodies will become addicted like they do to heroin and all these other things. And they put that kind of stuff in the food, and they make it taste nice and look good, and all these things that re-stimulate a nice feeling, and they put those on the shelves and they make them look nice, and they have pretty girls standing there selling them to people as they walk by. So that's the problem now, is that people start eating that way and they start to become unhealthy. So when I was doing my military service, there was a course that I did, and part of this course was to basically apply all the practical, all the academic or theory skills. So I'd done all this theory on camouflage and evading being tracked down in the bush, and hunting and catching small animals and cooking them, and what you can and can't eat, how to skin a snake, how to pull its poison sac out, and all of these kinds of things. So were taught to us. And then the last week that we were in the bush, we had these ex-terrorists. So we called them terrorists because they were basically whatever. So these guys were called Askaris, and they were captured on the Angolan border, and then they turned. So they turned and they became part of our forces. And we used them for training, and they used to teach us how to evade their ex-colleagues if we were being tracked down. And so that was the practical week. So these guys would chase us for a week in the bush, and I'd run around. Fortunately, I was a good runner. So I'm running, and these guys are chasing me, and I'm just so full of energy, and I'm hardly eating anything. I'm just so full of energy. And I would eat small animals. I ate one snake, I ate a puffadder, I ate some scorpions, and I ate some ants, and I ate, I don't eat a lot of plants, but I did have berries. There were some marula trees that I didn't eat because it was just too much hassle to climb up the tree and pick fruit. So I didn't eat fruit. But I ate probably like an ancient Homo sapien. And I cannot believe that was almost the best I had felt in my life up until that point. I felt great. I mean, also the open space helped. I'd lay on my back at night and look at the stars in the African bush. Everything was dark, and there's these bright stars. It was beautiful. But I was like out of my head with like ketones. I never knew it at the time what was going on in me, but that was one thing that I noticed, was that I was extremely alert. I was very, very strong. I was very fit, and I could run all day. These guys were chasing me all day. And part of it was to evade these guys. So you had to be smart, and you had to play a game, and it was totally up my alley. And I was the only guy that never got captured that entire week. Everybody got captured. And when you get captured, you get treated like a prisoner of war. And that was really what it was like. And I was like, I don't want to be treated like a prisoner of war. So I ran and ran and ran and ran and ran. And I was full of energy. And I ate maybe 4 times in 7 days. So, I mean, I drank water at the streams and so on. But it just was, to me, the proof that this is how these bodies are supposed to eat. Because when I'm at home and I'm eating canned baked beans and, I don't know, canned ham and fast food burgers and pizzas, and I didn't feel as good. I felt bad. But when I was eating very scarcely and my meals were spaced, I felt good. So here's how it works: is your organs are set up to produce certain hormones, to produce certain enzymes, certain detergents, and so on, to digest food and absorb food as nutrients and so on. So that is how it's organized, and it's not been designed to do more than it's supposed to do. So it's been designed, like the pancreas, for instance, it produces insulin, and it produces glucagon, and it produces enzymes which break down, fatty particles and protein particles and that. And, so you eat once and it squirts all that stuff out, and so does your gallbladder, squirts out enough bile to break down all the protein and the fat. And then, it settles down and it doesn't have to work anymore. And that's its job done for a day or two. But in today's world, it has to produce. So the other thing that really messes up this whole system is that because you're eating so much, and because you're eating stuff that you're not supposed to be eating, your blood glucose goes up, like up. Because you're not supposed to be putting that stuff in your body manually anyway. You're not supposed to be putting glucose into your body or sugar into your body. That's not, your body makes that. Your body will make the glucose. Don't worry about it. It'll take protein and fat and it'll turn into glucose, because it only needs 1 teaspoon of glucose at any given time. So when you're eating like a modern day diet, like a bowl of basmati rice would spike your blood glucose to like 12 teaspoons. 12 teaspoons, and it only needs 1. So now your pancreas has to deal with those 12 teaspoons. And then also, that's not just once, that's like 4 or 5 times a day that people are doing this. They're having a candy bar and a protein bar and a protein shake and all of these things. And this poor pancreas is going chugga, 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 chugga. Same with the gallbladder. It's going chugga, 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 chugga. And the problem also becomes like, because you're eating the wrong stuff, the gallbladder is not squeezing the bile out because it doesn't need to, because it's just carbohydrates and sugar, and no one wants to eat their healthy fats anymore. So, and also, you know, their cholesterol levels are not what they should be because there's so much damage in the body. So now the bile becomes cloggy and stony, and then the gallbladder gets blocked, and then the pancreas gets blocked, and the pancreas starts digesting itself, and then, you know, and the fat that's going and the protein that's going into the small intestine is not getting digested because the pancreas is not working. It's like, so this whole like thing starts to become a mess, you know, and a synchronization of all these parts of this organism, all these different departments and these divisions of this organization, it starts to fall apart. And as a result, the organization starts to fail. And next minute, the only thing that can keep this organization going is business rescue, which is the pharmaceutical industry. Not real, doesn't really rescue you. It just seemingly does. You should be rescuing yourself. You should be doing the correct stuff and treating this organization correctly and putting those communication flows into this organization, which is the food, that at the correct amount and in the correct the correct form. So that's why we need to look at back to basics. Just get back to basics. Like, what are the basic foods that Homo sapiens need? The basic foods are fat and protein and phytonutrients. That's what it needs. So you need to be eating that. And if you're eating anything else, you are literally creating small injuries to your body every single day. Every time you put something that's toxic, got toxic ingredients in it, or damaging and inflammatory, like sugar and carbohydrates and processed carbohydrates and food colorings and all these types of things, you're creating injuries, small little injuries that compound, and eventually 15 years down the line, the person sitting with obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, you know, and all of these things, and they don't know why. And then here's more proof that eating like a Homo sapien is the correct way to do it. And these Homo sapien bodies love to just respond and repair themselves, because we take people who've got diabetes, high blood pressure, all these things that they get with this modern standard American diet. I know Dr. Berg likes to call it the sad diet. I've got something going on my computer here. I hope it's not going to go off. And it just goes haywire, you know. So you need to get back to basics and just put the right food in. And like when you do, the diabetes goes away. And we see it daily. The high blood pressure goes away. Like, guys come on our program, high blood pressure through the roof, like 180 over 220, and they should be dead. And they come on our program, and by the time they finish, it's like 120 over 80, like perfect in the middle, you know, because, you know, they like to say that's high normal, but it's not. It's actually in the middle. So, you know, so then how did we do that? Well, we just fed it like it's supposed to be fed. Oh, and the guy's lost all this weight. So there's a guy who's on my program at the moment. He's a great guy, and he's been on my program for on and off for a year. He's lost 80 pounds. And he sent me his tests yesterday that he had done at the doctor. And the doctor, they're falling over backwards. I don't know what's happening with this guy, because this guy has a triglyceride thing. So his triglycerides go very high. And just so that you know, triglycerides, when your triglycerides are high, it's because of a bad diet. It's not because of fat. It's not because of protein. It's because of carbohydrates and sugar. That's it. Don't think that, oh, because triglycerides are a kind of fat, that it's because of fat. It's not. It's because you're eating sugar and carbohydrates. That's why your triglycerides go through the roof. That's it. No other reason. So anyway, this guy's got this hereditary genetic thing that his triglycerides go extremely high. They were like 1,000 and something, and it's supposed to be like 100 or something, you know. And it was like, when he first came on my program, he was like, yeah, I just need to tell you I've got this, and we just need to watch for it and everything. I said, okay, I understand. Don't worry. Let's just have a look. You know, I knew it was going to happen. And he sent me this thing yesterday, and it's like his triglycerides are 100% in the middle. And it's like unheard of this, you know. His cholesterol's perfect. Everything's perfect. Everything's perfect. There was just one thing that he may have had a little bit of elevated B vitamins. That was all. You know, I mean, elevated B vitamins, it could be worse. So, you know, this is from a guy who weighed 320 pounds when he came on my program. And, you know, he made a decision. He's a great guy. Made this decision to get better and did it. And all he did was, you know, he followed my program and which is the Homo sapien diet. It's like, that's it. So, you know, I could go on and on and on and on about why we need to eat like our bodies are designed to do, which is the Homo sapien diet. But it actually, there is very little to be said about it. It is that simple. Like I could talk about scientific evidence and medical terms and all of these things, but it's not that complicated. It's like, why do you want to do something else? You just need to eat the phytonutrients from your plants. Okay, and then you got to have a look at those plants as well. So, and here's something else I always get, just so that before I go into this whole plant thing, what's in those plants, is people say to me, "Yo, but the Japanese have been eating rice for thousands of years." That might be the case, but the Japanese haven't been filling their guts with burgers and pizzas for the last thousands of years either, or even the last 50 years for that matter. However, if you go to China, they have the highest incidence of diabetes. They're also rice eaters, So there's been a change in the food. It's not like it was 100 years ago. So the food is all fake now. You can't even get real salmon anymore. It's all farmed. So we get that a lot. So the person says to us, but this is healthy and that's healthy, and like I eat a bit of cheese. Me personally, I eat a bit of cheese. I eat some nuts, and people are asking me why they can't have that on the program, and I'm like, because you're not healthy. It's not like this stuff's unhealthy, but it's unhealthy to someone whose body is not in a condition to produce to process it. So certain foods are definitely added in when the person has regained his health and got down to his ideal weight and so on. But it's not good for that person to eat that food until his body is recovered and he's doing a lot better, and then when his body's healthy and can process that kind of food, then yeah, absolutely. So it's like there's a lot of healthy foods that are taken off our program, which would be part of the Homo sapien diet. Things like honey and, things like that. I don't eat a lot of honey and hardly any. But the thing is with it is that you can't eat it if you're trying to lose weight, and you can't eat it if you're unhealthy, because it just raises your blood sugar again, and it's too much. Your body needs to chill out from the sugar and the carbohydrates. Really, that's what it needs to do. And if it doesn't do that, at some point it's going to turn on you. That's what happens with these bodies. It's just going to break down and turn on you. So we put the people on the program, we reset it. We found that 2 months is more or less the right amount, but some people need more. But 2 months is about right. And then the body's reset, and then the person's down to weight, or more or less down to weight, or he knows the deal now. At least he gets through to the end of the 2 months, and he's like, I can see now why my body needs to eat this and not that, and eat this and not that. And so that's basically what the deal is with it. So he can get through the end of the 2 months, and he goes, I have a good understanding of how my body's supposed to work. I'm a Homo sapien, and this is what my body's meant to eat. And I'm going to continue to do that. And then I will add the other foods in, the good, healthy foods that I couldn't eat, once my body is actually resembling something of a Homo sapien again. So yeah, I think that's really all I have regarding the Homo sapiens diet. I wanted to push that point home. I wanted to drive that point home about Homo sapiens, is that that's the type of body that we have. Our body type is Homo sapiens. And if you don't eat like one, it's like if you're driving a diesel truck and you keep throwing paraffin in it, it's going to play up on you. And you're putting, oil in the motor that's actually for a petrol engine, and so eventually it's going to play up. And you don't change the air filter, and it's going to play up. So you need to put the right fuel in, otherwise it's going to play up. Your filters are going to get blocked, and your valves are going to get blocked, and your fuel lines are going to get blocked, and you're not going to be able to process the fuel properly anymore, and eventually it just can't process, and it won't even start anymore. It doesn't even get out of bed. So, okay, if you haven't already done our program and you're interested, you should do it. It will help you, I have no doubt. If you have done our program, well done. I know it's a big step to take. I really appreciate you doing that. And I hope to see you in the next video. Okay, cool.